But it was like, I mean, he reminds me of that scene in Midnight Cowboy with Viva, when she walks into the restaurant, she goes, "You." Because that's how they treat a lot of the girls here. And Laurel said that the artists have this attitude where their wives are their Madonnas, and every other chick is a whore.
No, that's not true.
Well, I've been told that too. But I thought.
Oh, I don't know. Chamberlain once expressed it to me in a whole different way. It says if you want to be an artist's wife or an artist chick or an artist old lady, you just got to be somebody who's either got an interest of your own or wants to read a lot of books or is willing to stay home all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think it has to do with being a Madonna. I just think it has to be with the fact that the artist's way of life has to do with just being out in the world.
Right. And they don't like to bring their girls with them?
I don't think I ever treated my wives any better. Well, I'm not an artist, I guess, but I certainly never treated my wives as Madonnas.
Yeah. Well, you're an artist. You're a restaurant.
That would be a foolish move tactically.
Exactly.
You're a restaurant genius.
Strictly on that level.
Yeah.
Mickey, you're a restaurant genius, and that's a form of artistry.
Well, all right, yeah. So I consider, I consider that my communication is basically with artists. They're the only people I've ever felt comfortable with.
God, I have Larry Rivers questions here for you. Speaking of artists.
They're not interchangeable.
Now the question Richard's idea was a really cute. I said, "Oh, I have to interview Mickey tomorrow. Can you think of any really great questions?" He says, "Yeah." And this is for is this in color? This tape? Oh, so this is for the black and whites out there. Because everything here is red. Mickey's, I think, is that your favorite color, red?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. The tablecloths and napkins.
No, at this point,
Mickey socks.
Orange, yellow.
But he wanted me to ask you, how do you stay out of the red?
I don't. I'm in the red deeply, maybe. That's why I don't like the color anymore.
What about the Uptown place? That just didn't catch on? And it was
well, if you really want to know how I view that in perspective, is that I had an image of myself of I wanted to be rich, and I was an empire builder, right? And I was going to have that place across the street. I was going to have Uptown, right? And what I discovered basically was that I wasn't an empire builder, that restaurants weren't my thing, and that, like it was me and it was my charisma or whatever you want to call it, and that the only way I was ever going to do it was to do it, like in the, I had to be there to make something work. In other words, I'm not a restaurateur.
Right.
So it cost me $500,000, and here I am.
Nor was Sherman Billingsley. I mean, he only had one place.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I couldn't learn from his experience any more than I could learn from my father's experience, right? I mean, so what difference does it make? I mean,
So then part of your formula for the success is you yourself.
It's not part of my formula. It seems to be
that is your formula.
Yeah. It's very depressing, really.
That was my next question. Well, were you here the night the Hells Angels were here?
You mean the night that they did the knifing? Or
yeah.
No, I had left a half hour before they got here. No, it's very upsetting to me, as a matter of fact, because I'm.
Yeah, because you've never had that kind of trouble before?
Here.
You have,
yeah.
But they behaved.
Well, either that or I was always called. You see, the mistake they made here. Well, it wasn't a mistake. Apparently, they weren't wearing their colors when they came in, or Tom missed their colors when they came in, because normally the situation would have called to immediately call me at home, and I would have come over here. Once I get here with Hell's Angels, I just watch them and wait for my first excuse to call the cops. This all happened so fast, it's possible that it might not have been able to be stopped anyway. But I had 2 very heavy incidents with the Hell's Angels.
Oh, in the restaurant?
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
that one and another one, or two others?
2 others where nothing happened
gosh.
because I called the cops and got them out in time. In other words, like 2 other times where they were like looking for trouble, or I just called the cops.
They went to the scene, Did Steve ever tell you about that?
No.
It's when they were hanging out with the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
And they went to the scene, and he was always so afraid.
Yeah.
He would never call the cops.
Well,
he was afraid of the cops to everybody.
There are certain things which I'd really rather not say, because there's no reason to want to make them look bad, because that's only going to make, like make for trouble if you were to publish it, but
yeah.
So I'd really rather not tell you how I deal with it, but I have dealt with them very, very effectively.
You seem to have a lot of that at the door. I mean, you get some really manic types at the door that you deal with.
Do you find that?
Well, with the Angels, I don't deal with them the way I don't stop the Angels at the door the way I stop other people at the door. What I do with the Angels is I wait until they're inside and then just watch them until they give me an excuse, basically.
Do they pay their checks?
They don't come that often. Actually, we have a bunch of angels that come here kind of regularly to eat dinner who are, like there's a whole group. The New York Angels themselves are basically not a bad bunch of guys at all. And there's like a group of them that come here that eat. Not a group, but I mean there are 3 or 4 different guys that come here fairly regularly, I think, usually without colors, who eat, drink, split, and, like never bother a soul, and one night when...
Nobody's the wiser.
Well, sometimes they wear their collars. I mean, the point is like they just come here like anybody else.
Yeah,
I mean,
right, yeah.
One night when this guy Big Vinny was here, and he was causing a scene, and I was going to call the cops, right? But they got him out themselves. I mean, they wouldn't admit to me that they got him out. Like they wouldn't say like we're going to get him out. But I watched the whole maneuver, and it was obvious to me that they were really embarrassed and they wanted to get him out because they didn't want trouble. Because basically they do come. Some of them do come here kind of just to hang out when they want to just like kind of be by themselves.
Right.
There are a couple of books coming out on them now.
Yeah.
Aren't there?
I haven't really heard of them.
Yeah.
I wanted to do them for the show. I don't know if Anton would want to, jeopardize himself. I think they would be interesting to talk to. Do you think that the groups upstairs, like the Manhattan Transfer, they seem to attract a fabulous crowd, a very well mild-mannered crowd? Do you think that some of the groups are the people that attract some of the crazy element that comes in? It's according to who's playing upstairs.
You mean? Yeah,
like
of course.
Some weekends it's so heavy, especially on the weekends.
Isn't it true that there are people who will be let in upstairs and not down here?
Yeah, a lot. But it's also true that, for instance, if the dolls play upstairs, no matter how you try and stop leakage into downstairs, there's going to be a certain amount of leakage. If Elephant's Memory, when they were playing upstairs, there was a certain amount of leakage downstairs, right? I mean, there's only so much you can stop, right?
Right.
And yeah, Manhattan Transfer draws one crowd, Captain Beefheart draws another crowd. Sure, it's all.
What is your criteria? I mean, I've always found it interesting to watch you at the door, and you'll turn away straight-looking people at times, and
it's really instinct more than anything else.
Just some sense that you have of what they're like and what they're about and where they belong.
At this point, what I try and do. See, I used to work a lot by looks and dress, right? Well, obviously that criteria has failed because we've changed that.
Right. Everyone.
Right.
They probably wouldn't let you into your own restaurant.
Possibly. So now I work mostly on trying to catch somebody's accent. Like I'll ask them if I'm not sure. I'll ask them if I can help them, and just try and pick up on whether they have what we call an OB accent, which is in other boroughs. And if they do, then I won't let them in.
That's interesting. That is very interesting. Yeah.
That really is brilliant.
But there's no real. It's really the criteria these days are much harder than they ever were before. Also, it depends on my mood. Like a lot of nights where I just don't care anymore. On weekend nights, it gets. I've been doing this for 8.5 years, and I found that I could never get anybody else. I tried to get David to do it, and he was an abject failure, which is no reflection on him. It just wasn't his thing, right?
When you started, you had Marissa and.
Well, I had a lot of different chicks.
I mean, Larissa and Marcia, I think.
No. I had Sharon Powers. I had Ronnie Berlin. I had Abigail Rosen, black chick. I don't think Larissa. Marcia might have been in it.
I think Marcy used to sit up there.
Very briefly, she might have done it.
I think it would appear very strange to someone who wasn't familiar with the scene to watch you turning, letting in people who are really outrageous looking, and then other people who are straight. Like they'd be a bit confused by what the criteria was.
And then also you use that. Are you having dinner?
Yeah,
having dinner. Well, I'm sorry, we still can't let you in.
And couples only is interesting when there's obviously not a couple inside.
I will use once I decide I'm going to let somebody in or not in, I'll use whatever I think is the easiest way to make them go away.
Right.
Well, that was an interesting incident last week. That guy that had all the paraphernalia with him. Sit in the alcove.
Oh, you Romney. Wait, I just didn't realize who it was. It was
he's a famous person.
Right.
Yeah, well, I just didn't realize it. Like I hadn't seen him for a couple of weeks. He's really getting really old looking.
Yeah, and he said to Mickey, Mickey says, "Well, who are you?" And he says, "I'm garbage."
Yeah. Also, the reason I'd gone to him wasn't to throw him out. I thought that was a sword he was carrying. And there's like ever since the night at the Ninth Circle that Charlie Mingus pulled out a sword on a guy, it's been one of my rules that you check your weapons at the door.
That's a very good
Mingus,
rule.
can you believe that at the Ninth Circle one night? It was like these 4 straight people had come in wearing they'd been in costume or something, they had swords on, and somehow they got to talking to Mingus, right? And the next thing I know, I see Mingus standing, he'd grab one of the guy's swords.
Glad to see me, or is that your
Shouldn't leave any
sword?
sharp objects around Nick.
Oh, well, another night where Charles got into something at the night. So this all happened. He used to hang there a lot. He walked into the kitchen and got a butcher knife. Just walked into the kitchen, grabbed the knife, and went into the bathroom after this guy. And the thing is, Charles happens to be probably one of the more harmless people in the world. I mean, I think that if he had actually been put in a position either time or at any time where he actually ever was forced to do something, I think he'd panic because he's not at all the violent type. I mean,
But he has that great legend for violence.
Well, I don't know. I've never even heard a legend for violence.
And then the
I've
people
just
that-
seen him do things like this, but they were always situations where he really wanted to be stopped. I mean, like he never, he don't want to hit anybody. He's not. I mean, there is a kind of guy that, particularly black guys that go berserk. I mean, I've seen this, but that's not Charles at all. I mean, like he's not that. His craziness is a totally different craziness.
Yeah.
And the mild-mannered
much more
people,
beautiful,
like Michael Pollard, turned into one of the crazies here.
They said Michael Pollard is mild, man.
Oh, well, I always thought he was mild-mannered.
He's insane.
But he was, oh God, he was insane here
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah, well, Michael was going through a bad time for
I
about 4
guess.
years.
And Eric keeps topping himself. I don't know where he gets his energy from.
Yeah, I've lost interest in Eric.
You still allow him in, though? Is it?
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, you have different criteria. I mean, like at one point I almost did throw him out, actually. What the hell was he doing that I wanted to throw him out for? Well, I was pissed off. I thought that Angels incident originated out of his party that night. He swears it didn't. Apparently it came out of the Diplomat. Apparently they had all been up at Le Jardin before that, and I wrongly blamed Derek.
Oh God, well that I could if you had gone to that party, I would have still believed it.
Yeah, well, see, I don't, I go through points with people like for a while. I find people that come on slowly are usually the most interesting in the long run, right? And then there are people like Eric who you look at and who flash and who really are interesting and beautiful and so forth and so on. And then after a while, they're interesting and beautiful, but they still haven't done anything and they're not going to do anything. It becomes obvious after a while that they're never going to do anything. And
You want people to
they lose
graduate
interest
from
in it.
Maxis and do
of course.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, because Eric was that crazy scene here years ago, and then he worked here, and he was a perfect gentleman. And when he was working here, never screamed or anything, and it was so
Never
crazy to
yelled
see the metamorphosis.
I mean, that's why I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to, I should have graduated, like what am I going to do here now?
Well, what would your plans be otherwise? Do you have other things in mind that you'd like to do?
Well, at this point, I just want to go away for a while and let my mind work on its own for a while. Probably I'd go out the West Coast and probably just wind up opening another place out there. Sure, I'd like to get into movies, I'd like to do this or that, but as a matter of reality, I'd probably just open another place somewhere else. But I just know that right now, I'm stale here.
Well, Laurel said that you're sort of like a high school principal for us all. She often thinks of you that way,
Yeah, if you ever left, we'd probably really flounder around.
Yeah,
There really is no other place to go in all of New York.
There really isn't.
Yeah, it's true. Well, now there's Club 82. I mean, there are places come and go.
Yeah, but it's not.
Club 82 isn't Maxis.
It's not the
gonna
same.
last either.
And you can't, you can't eat there, and you can't talk.
Yeah. But it is true. I mean, like the way I used to visualize, the star comes here, right? And Andy's the perfect example because he was so early and he helped so to make the place, And he comes here and then all these other people come here, what you would call as hangers-on, right? Then he picks out from the hangers-on the ones that are most interesting and he uses them. Then eventually there are so many hangers-on that they're no longer interesting and they're really beginning to bug him. So he goes away and he leaves me with all his hangers-on. I therefore have to stand at the door basically and sort out the interesting hangers-on from the uninteresting hangers-on. I mean, in a way you can look at, that's my function at the door, The star is disappeared, I'm left with the hangers-on, I have to sort them out.
Well, I think that's an interesting attitude because most people just want to pack their places, and you do want to have the quality, and I suppose maybe that's why this remains a very civilized place.
I don't like to think of quality, I like to think of it as interest.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean by, of course, what kind of, how would we determine quality?
Selectivity, I guess.
Yeah.
Did you ever think, it's like sometimes we're here at 4 o'clock in the morning, nobody wants to go home.
Yeah.
Did you ever think of turning upstairs into after hours?
You can with the license. Also, my attitude, particularly in the days when I used to be here all the time, was that by 4 o'clock in the morning I was tired and I wanted to go home.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to understand this is a job to me.
Yeah, and also the help, too. They're very tired.
Yeah, I mean, like Tom's been here 10 hours. I mean, so. Also, as a matter of experience, if you go to after-hours places, you realize that there's too much trash. The later it gets at night, the trashier any place gets.
Yeah.
I mean, you're more and more left with the people that have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Or just started getting off at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, now the quaaludes are out, at least they're awake. God, the summer was unbelievable.
Oh, that was so
The
disgusting.
first time I've ever been in sympathy with the drug law was the law that changed quaaludes. As hard as it is to get quaaludes now, at least I don't have to contend with the problem here.
Oh God,
Yeah.
it was awful
Yeah.
because from a female's point of view, I mean, some of those guys, the people from the boroughs, not Westchester, that's my borough, but as a woman, I'd be walking through and they grab you. I mean, they get so horny on those things, they just grab you. They just
Yeah.
grab you.
Horny didn't bother me nearly as much as the ones that just passed out. I mean,
Yeah.
it seemed to me that it must have been the thing at one point during the summer. It must have been the thing to drop a quaalude, come to Max's, and get drunk and pass out.
Yeah.
They don't. Nobody. I don't think they realized enough. I don't think it got enough publicity about how bad it is with alcohol.
Oh,
You
no,
can
no, no. I
die.
think they were aware of it. I mean, I think they just, I thought it was a thing to do. I mean, there were so many people doing it, I just assumed it was a thing to do, pass out. What a wonderful way
Well,
to
it was
go.
a thing to do to pass out, but they didn't know that it might kill them.
Well, it
It
never
killed a
reached
lot
the
of people.
proportions of someplace like Nobody's, where they were
Oh, no.
constantly carrying people out of the bathroom,
Well, that was mainly because, we became aware of it faster. I mean,
Yeah.
I was here a couple of nights late, and I realized it was a real horror show, so I just really stepped in.
Uh-huh.
Also, the drug law came, fortunately, that drug law did come right around that time.
Right.
And that has made it, I'm sure we're all aware, very hard to get called.
Yeah.
What else is interesting about this place is clubs like the 82 Club in Le Jourdain, they have a very gay element, but here the gays and the straights all seem to get along. It's like a combination of both.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of the uniqueness of this
Yeah,
place.
that's
Yeah.
part of my tolerance. I mean,
But it's funny to go because usually the gays scare the straights away and the straights scare the gays away, but here they all seem to, all the insanities blend together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that
Because
one
they're
of the
all
reasons. Huh?
That's because they're all interesting. I mean,
Yeah. And who are some of your favorite characters that come over the years?
Captain Marvel. I have no favorite character.
You don't have any favorite
I
characters?
don't consider that a good question. I only have favorite people. If I thought of the people here as characters, I don't think I really would have the kind of place. That
Yeah, I
that
don't mean
have,
I shouldn't have said
yeah.
characters. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
some of your
I mean,
favorites.
the only incident I could ever think of in terms of a character was the night that the guy walked out. He got up from a table. It must have been one of those booths right by the jukebox, and he walked out, and he walked right out the window. Of course, the window broke, right?
Oh,
you know?
yes.
And all I can remember is he gets up, and he hasn't got a scratch on him, and he goes like this. I said, that wasn't supposed to happen.
He walked right out the window.
Well, didn't you once say that Bridget was one of your favorite people here?
Oh, yeah, I love Bridget.
She doesn't come here
I
anymore.
haven't
Yeah,
seen
yeah, Bridget and I have a little falling out,
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I would say, yeah. Bridget's a strange person. I'm a strange person. We're still friends. We met at Lillian's funeral, and we kissed and hugged, and then we met at, I don't know, something about Bruce, but I don't know. We met over a few tragedies recently, and we were dear friends, but I mean, she doesn't come here. I understand she doesn't go out of the room ever since Patty Hearst got kidnapped.
I know. She's jealous, I think.
I know, absolutely.
She's waiting for them to come and get her.
But no one knows who Richard Berlin is, do they?
Not only
Not a
that,
kidnapper.
nobody but her and her sisters and her brother. But on top of that,
But the
if they
SLA
did, they must know that he certainly wouldn't give any money to pay for her.
But no, the SLA would pay to get rid of her.
Right. With a Polaroid.
Right, with her Polaroid camera, right? Shooting all the SLAs.
All right, now you fuck her. I'll start that. Now you can fuck me. You take
No,
pictures.
no, I want to take some pictures with the gun now.
Yeah.
What is this
No,
stuff?
I have actually like 2 or 3 people that I consider myself closest to. And in the last year, I branched out so that maybe there are another 4 or 5 people on top of that I consider myself very close to, and they're all artists, Except, well, unless you want to define Creeley as a writer, I would define Creeley as an artist.
Yeah, well, clearly.
Yeah.
But were you disappointed initially that it didn't turn out to be like the old Cedar Bar?
Oh, I
Because
never
you were
wanted to
attracted-
make the old Cedar Bar. I never went to the Cedar Bar. I was in the Cedar Bar once.
Really? And you never...
Twice, I'm sorry. Twice. Once in the afternoon, once at night. I don't drink. No, I never... When I opened the Ninth Circle, historically I started with the Poets Place, right? You're aware of the Dominico
Yes,
and the
yes.
Turkey Coffee, right? Okay. And when I opened the Ninth Circle, it was just like, really, I was opening a steakhouse. And if I was opening a bar, it was a Googie's, if you knew Googie's in those days,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
I considered myself, at that time, when I used to define it, I saw it as three types of, we were the middle-class beatniks. The upper-class beatniks were the white horse, the limelight, and I think there was a third one. I don't remember anymore. The middle-class beatniks hung out at the Ninth Circle and Googie's, and the lower-class beatniks hung out at the Kiwi and the place on that's still McDougal Street, Paulie, you know.
Oh, the
The
kettle of fish.
Oh, the
Kettle
Kettlefish.
right.
Those are the low class?
Those were the lower class.
Oh, thank you.
Well, the Kiwi are low class.
Thank you. I used to hang out there. And Bob Dylan used to hang out there, too.
All right,
And
well,
Mary
I'm saying
Mary.
the way I saw it.
Well, that was before he was high
right.
class.
Right. Anyway, that was the Ninth Circle. What happened was the Cedar closed, and all of a sudden some of the artists started coming to the Ninth Circle because we were new. And when they started hanging there, it just happened that I met some of them, and I became very close with them, you know, like, because I communicated, you know.
I see, it wasn't a conscious.
There was nothing ever conscious. When I opened this place, it was more conscious only in the fact that at this point I was opening this place for my friends, right? And at that point in time, all my friends were artists.
Uh-huh.
So in that sense, this was designed. But to think of it as in any way having to do with the Cedar, it was never intended to have to do with the Cedar. It was never thought of as the Cedar. You know, this place was opened up more as a Ninth Circle than it was as a Cedar Tavern.
I see,
I mean, you know, you know, I was consciously trying to avoid being like the Ninth Circle. Like I didn't want the peanuts, and I didn't want this or that. But also the basic menu and formula were the same as the Ninth Circle.
Right.
So basically, the artists and the regulars that have been coming here through the years are the people that are sustaining Max's image. What about financially? Do they sustain it financially? You think that you make most of your money from them, or because you
I mean, I'm still
most
here.
of your
How else
art
can I-
does most of your artwork pay for their checks?
Well, there's a lot of it. I mean, you know, I'm still here. 8 years later, there are only 3 places still alive. That's me and Elaine's and Casey's.
Yeah.
Casey's got money, so he don't care if he gets money. Elaine works as hard as I do, and I assume she also, you know, I would assume she's made a lot more money than I have. But then I've made a lot of money. I've just spent everything I have. So I have to work for a living.
Oh, so you spend it. So it's not the club, it's not the restaurant that you have to keep putting it into so much. It's your
Well, it's
lifestyle.
Well, it's partly my lifestyle and partly my failures. I mean, those other 2 places really did cost me not $500,000,
Yeah.
but about $250,000. New York State announced to me yesterday that I owe $68,000 in back taxes for those 2 places. The federal
Really?
government, I owe $30,000.
Well, it's amazing that you're here today after getting news like that yesterday.
Well, yeah, actually, yeah. Well, they're on the 62nd floor of the World Trade Center, and apparently everybody walks up. First thing you do is look at the view, right? The second thing you do is you turn to the guy who's asking you for the money and you say, "Where's the window so I can jump?" And apparently they've got a whole routine about this because everybody must do the same thing on them, you know, which I also did.
But sometimes on the weekends, it seems like you're really racking them in with that bottleneck up there by the bar.
Yeah, that's money over the bar, and sure, the bar takes in a lot of money, but you know, like the tables are still like where the you know, like a bar can only take in X dollars, whereas the tables can take in a lot more. You know?
Well, your afternoon business is an entirely different thing. And does that? I
It's
suppose
an entirely
that
different
sustains
crowd
you?
too.
No,
It doesn't.
That is less than 10% of my overall business.
Really?
Yeah, I do that more because of the relationships with the neighborhood, because of shifts. It makes it easier to have serve because the shift has to be here anyway. And I like the idea of the transition from straight to crooked over the period of time. It's
Yeah.
an interesting
It's
transition.
fun to watch.
Yeah,
too.
that
It's
is.
also had a very strong influence on certain people in this neighborhood. I consider, you know, that ripple influence, right? You know, like different people can influence more people. For instance, Dylan's message may not be very heavy, but it's been transmitted to an awful lot of people, right? If you take, like, say, Pollock's message was awfully heavy and was transmitted initially to very few people, so historically he had to wait like 30, 40, 50, maybe even 100 years before his whole message gets across to people.
Right.
Well, I'm somewhere in between. My message has rippled out to fewer people than Dylan because it's heavier than Dylan's maybe, but on the other hand, it hasn't nearly, you know, been as heavy as, say, Pollock's, but it has definitely had a ripple effect. I mean, I've affected my neighborhood, my neighborhood's affected. You know, these people go back to Westchester, New Jersey. I mean, I've had a definite effect on you
Yeah,
know,
that's interesting that they come in here in the afternoon from business and they they get a glimpse of a.
Yeah,
well,
it's
not
also
so much
it's like
the
a,
afternoon crowd as it is the cocktail hour where you really see the mix. I mean, you know, like where you see like there are guys that who you may never have noticed in all the years you've been coming here, who I may pour out of here some nights at 12 o'clock at night. You know, guys who work in this neighborhood who drink here and who wear ties and jackets, but in no way are either offensive or offended. In other words, they're just nice guys who happen to, you know,
to like to drink.
well, more than that is like they feel comfortable here because it's as much their place.
Right.
You know. I had a thing. I think. That's right. I guess you never interviewed me. A few years ago, I had an incident involving like one of the straight guys with one of the maitre d's, and this was a guy from Guardian Life. And when I say straight, I'm only using it because he's not really straight, except in terms of he wears a tie and jacket and comes to work at 9 o'clock.
Semi-establishment.
Yeah. And he is he's straight establishment, but he's also a very nice guy. And anyway, this maitre d had a thing where he shoved him out. I don't know, he did this or that. And to make a long story short, when I saw it, I immediately fired the maitre d, which established the fact that the place belonged as much to those straight people as it belonged to the hippies.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that might have been a turning point in terms of where those guys were at. Like until then, maybe there might have been some feelings of discomfort on their part. After that, when they saw that, you know, like as far as I was concerned. I also had another incident once, if you remember the Jimi Hendrix song, Star Spangled Banner.
Yeah.
Well, I had that on the box for about 2 days, and nothing was said by any of these guys except like through like third and fourth parties about how they found it offensive. And I thought about it for a couple of days. I decided they had as much right to find something like that as offensive, and I took it off the box. I don't feel I was selling out and doing that. I felt I was just respecting them as I would respect anybody else.
I think that's.
Also, it's like a whole, Max is like a cult too, because it's famous in Europe. When people who haven't been here yet, they're always recommended to come to Max's, and that's the hip thing to do. Also, from California.
Robin's over there now trying to open a Max's. We're trying to get money together for it. Yeah.
In Paris?
Robin is?
Yeah.
That would be interesting. There would be a lot of competition with the food in France.
No.
They're very picky.
No.
You wouldn't have the same
Are you
menu.
serious?
Would you have the same menu?
Exactly. Don't you know anything about Paris, man?
They've got the best
Call
food
it
in the
America.
world in Paris.
Well, first of all, I would dispute that. But secondly, the fact is that the French right now are so into America that as long as you call them, haven't you heard
Yeah,
about Joe
Levi's
Allen's?
go for. That's true, I suppose.
Yeah, I know the whole
Kind of
image.
Levi's go
But
for-
also, those people love to eat.
But
They
have you
love
heard
to
about
eat.
Joe Allen's? I mean, Joe Allen serves the worst hamburger in the world in Paris and makes a fortune.
Oh, that's because it's a hamburger.
It doesn't make any difference. I mean, it's the French. The French are full of shit.
Oh, that's true.
Antoine, how are you?
But you haven't
I used to think he was.
changed the menu here in all these years. Do you think
I've
that?
added a little variety. You know, like I have specials, which I never used to have. But every time I try and change the menu, like if I add this or that, I find that I sell 3 or 4 orders of it in a night, and it just goes to waste.
But do you have some staples that are really good? Like the cheesecake is great over the
Yeah.
years, and what else? The cheese great, and the lobster's good. But you never had quiche Lorraine. I think if you had a really good quiche, that would be.
Well, if you had a really good anything, it'd be really good. It's a matter of preparing it at the prices that people are going to pay.
So you think a really good quiche would be very expensive?
Yeah.
How much is a cheese? That's Miss Grimble's, right?
No.
It's not?
No, Miss Grimble doesn't make good cheesecake. She's a miss.
I always thought that was Miss Grimble's
No.
cheesecake. Whose cheesecake is that?
That's a company called S&S that you never heard of, with a guy named Dave Gordon. So,
It's delicious.
yeah, I know.
And
Miss
it's a
Grimble's
good-
cheesecake is not.
And it's very expensive, too.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't figure out how you could dole out those big
You want to turn
portions.
off the jukebox, or you want me to?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Bit of background music.
The lighting that you have here during the day, is that the paranoia lighting that comes on at 3 o'clock in the morning? Or
Yeah.
it's the exact same lighting?
Yeah, it's just on rheostats, that's all.
Because in the daytime, it's not as paranoid as it is at 4 o'clock in the
It's
morning.
daylight outside. It's the contrary.
Yeah, I guess so.
There are, incidentally, to defend my food somewhat. When all is said and done, the steaks aren't bad, the shrimp isn't bad. Nothing is really that bad. There have been bad periods here when I had bad cooks and when I let things get sloppy. But basically, the food here is what I would consider adequate. And still, you can get a decent meal at a decent price
Yeah,
here,
that's
and
true.
there aren't that many places that you can do that.
I know, it's about the cheapest lobster in town here.
Yeah.
And it's,
Asbestos kind of shit.
it looks like a rug.
Yeah, it's an asbestos spray that has a fire retarding quality and also, it's a paint thing.
Oh, so you, after all the fires, you decided to put that
Oh
up?
no, this has always been here. I mean, it doesn't have that much of a fire retarding thing. I mean, watch it. The fire starts, it's going to start. I just have found better ways to self-destruct these days. What time is it? Does anybody know?
It's almost time. But I want to ask you one more question. Are you a hard man to work for?
That's my employees.
I have asked them. And they,
I worked here for 2 hours as spoiled.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's right. You once told me that.
and you couldn't take.
Well, it wasn't so much that. It was that I wasn't really cut out to be a good busboy.
I mean, if you go ask
flustered.
Dale if I'm a hard person to work for, Dale will probably undoubtedly say no. I mean, maybe in a peculiar way. You know, there are things that I want done my way. True, but basically, I'm not. You know, ask Anton. I don't know. Am I a hard person? But am I a hard person?
Oh, when I worked here,
I think I was just a nice Jewish boy from Jersey City. I've said that over and over.
No, well, you have. I've spoken to some of the people that have worked for you. It's probably your disciplinarian attitude, which is essential. But a lot of people are afraid of you.
Well, a lot of customers are afraid of me too. I don't know what to say. That's just me.
Yeah.
The thing is, it is true, as I'm sure you're aware, in 8 years, that there are a lot of nights that you'll walk in here that I don't bother to say hello to you, right? It hasn't got anything to do with the fact that I don't love you, or that I don't love Ed, or that I don't love Anton. It just happens to be that that's the kind of person I am, right? That, to say hello to somebody or to smile at somebody is just not an important thing in my life, okay? And I tend sometimes to forget that other people are not that way, that to other people some of these things are very important. That's, I don't necessarily forget that other people are not that way, that to other people some of these things are very important. That's, I don't know how else to put it.
But as an employer, no, I always had the impression you were a real whip-cracking employer.
Do you seriously think that somebody like
with a
Anton
gentle
could have
soul?
worked for me for 3 years if I were as whip-cracking as everything? I mean, I'm whip-cracking in terms of I take people who are basically amateurs and try and make them attain a certain level of efficiency. In other words, like instead of taking professionals, professional waiters or waitresses or busboys, I take people like Candy Culkin and Anton Perich and try and make them give some level of service. Now, you know how bad the service can be here. Just visualize if you didn't have somebody like them, how much worse it would be. I know. I mean, for instance, what was the service like at say, the Scene? I don't know. I mean, I would assume that it was almost non-existent, just as...
It was very, well, the people, you had to be on a very subservient level to survive there as an employee.
Well, whatever it is, I mean, I would just have to assume, like that other places,
Well, so Anton's evolved then. He's one of the people that has evolved, don't you think? The people that have graduated from Max's, wouldn't you?
I mean, he's an artist, but he was an artist even when he was working there. I just carried him because I liked him. I mean, he's not a good example of what I would consider a good employee.
But what if, I mean, some of the you don't really have that attitude about everybody that comes here, that if they're still hanging out here after 8 years and they haven't graduated.
Well, grow is better than graduate. Graduate is a bad word because, I mean, there is such a thing as graduating and coming back, but growing is much more important than graduating. It's the people that haven't grown. I mean, one of my own personal crises right now is looking at some of the people that I consider like really the people that I learned the most from, that were I almost hero worship, that I love, that I communicate with, and realizing that these are people I've known before here, like that go back to the Ninth Circle. I'm beginning to wonder whether they're growing anymore, and it's frightening because if they're not growing, maybe I'm not growing either. I mean, it's a whole complex procedure going on in my head now, and I've looked at, like I've been looking at more people's art. I've even been, like talking. Well, I can't say I've been talking to musicians, but I've been really trying to branch out a little bit more because, like, I've been really. It's very upsetting to think that people do start growing.
Well, they peak. I guess they peak at a certain time.
Well, right. When you get to be 40, which is what I am now, and you begin to, you begin to think, well, is it my age? Is it their age? Or, I see certain of my friends now beginning to worry that they're defeated. That's even worse.
Yeah.
To stop growing is one thing. To be defeated is another thing. Fucking Neuwirth has one tape, right? It's good. Have you heard it?
No.
Well, his tape is good. It's like either Tommy Kaye is a genius or Bobby finally came out. I lean towards the fact that maybe Tommy Kaye is a genius despite all his madness. But anyway, he's got this tape that's really good. I've heard it 3 times, and it might just do for Bobby. Like, maybe he's finally going to do it, right?
Really, that'd be nice.
Okay. So it was played here Saturday night at the party, and everybody dug it. People were dancing to it, blah, blah, blah. It was played the other night, and everybody likes it. There's problems, but basically it's a really good, it's not Bobby at all. He's really singing good, But already he's talking about painting. I mean, how fucking mad can you be? It's not even released yet, and he's talking about painting again.
Yeah, I've always wondered why Bobby didn't really You know, I mean,
Well, I
so
was
many people.
friends
He
with Jew.
doesn't have that Jew in
No,
him. He doesn't have the Jew in
Bobby's
him.
Jewish. No, did you ever know Ryder McClure?
No.
Well, Ryder McClure is an old friend of mine who's in Spain now. He's a very nice guy, hung around Max's, and he's only famous for one thing, and that's the line that we're all on self-destruct. That's something, you know, some of us are on a heavier self-destruct than others, and Bobby is just on a very, very heavy, you know. Also, Bobby's other thing is like he's also very aware of real genius because he's been a star fucker for so long that he really knows the difference between good and bad, and he's always been afraid that like everybody, he thinks he's shit, you know, and he doesn't realize that he's got his own genius.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's easier to fuck the stars than to be one.
Well, no, if you're fucking stars, it's hard. It's hard. It's really hard if you're gonna fuck a star, not to think that they're better than you. You know, like Bobby's problem is just that he's seen all this talent, and he's never realized that he's got his own talent. I mean, he's got more than this cock. He's just never realized it. The tape is good, but the tape, listening to the tape, my own impression was that as good as it was, that it had as much to do with Tommy Kaye's genius as it does with his. And you know Tommy, don't you?
No.
Do you know Tommy Kaye?
No.
Well, Tommy Kaye is really a madman, total incoherent madman. But he produced Loudon, the only successful album that Loudon ever put out, and he produced this one. And he has this, did you ever hear this White Cloud when they played at Max's?
White Cloud, yeah.
Yeah. Well, to me that one song that I still have on the box, I'm all cried out, is a brilliant song. That's Tommy. He just has this way of, I don't know how, because like when you talk to the guy, he's incoherent. I mean, he's literally incoherent. I mean, I cannot talk to this guy. But Loudon's record was, that one record was the only record that was really good.
Yeah, it's amazing how people can be incoherent.
And Loudon said he'd never let him produce another album. Bobby said that there were times when he literally thought that if he'd had a weapon in his hands, he would have killed Tommy. And I can believe it. I mean, but it's there. The record, it's really, it seems to me it verges on being brilliant.
His act is so brilliant when he does one or two songs and then just rocks with the audience.
Yeah, but you see, this is a different thing. This is Bobby Neuwirth really being a singer. I mean, he sings in this. It's not rap or anything else. This is not an act. I mean, this is a coherent album.
Yeah.
I mean, you will not recognize his singing at all.'s got Christopherson's group backing him up, which helps a lot.
Well, what happened with that when he stopped touring with Christopherson?
Well, I think he just stopped touring because they stopped touring.
I always thought that Bobby's raps.
He said, "I'm not with Chris anymore." He's telling.
Oh, really? When did he say that?
Last week.
Oh, I think it's just because Christopherson's off the road now, isn't it? He's touring. I don't know. I mean, it may just be that Bobby's off. Like he started this whole thing. I was going to do this, and he may be on a Star trip, but I'm not sure. God, I hope not. At least wait until the album's released. I think he's going to play Max's in the one.
Oh, great.
I always felt his rapping, although brilliant, was a kind of way of overcoming his fright.
Yeah, and it's also a way of expression, too, though.
Yeah,
I mean, the only night that I ever saw Bobby on stage that I enjoyed it was the night that Jagger was in the audience when all these other people froze up. Mimi Farina was there, and Joan Baez, and John Hammond, and all these, would-be minor stars or whatever, and none of them could make it, like they were all too uptight. And Neuwirth put together a brilliant show that night. I mean, he really entertained the audience,
You mean talking-wise or singing-wise?
Both. I mean, he talked and sang. He just he put together the night. Like he just made everybody else was uptight, and he loosened it up and made everybody sing well, and he sang well. And,
well, he's great at that.
Yeah, but this record is different. This record is really a good record.
But I don't know if stars in the audience really gives him stimulus though, because I remember seeing him at the bitter end, and Dylan came in, and that froze him.
I don't think it was the stars in the audience. I think what it was the fact that everybody else was uptight, and they needed an MC, and Bobby just took over as the MC. He just stepped into the role. That's how.
Yeah, he's great at that. Well, he just always struck me as the kind of person that's got it, but he just can't get it together.
That's because A, he's on self-destruct, and B, he's a star fucker, and he's never believed he had it. The record's good. I'm surprised you didn't hear the tape. You really should try and get Karen to play it.
Yeah, I haven't heard it.
Well, they've had a couple of mixes, and they're still looking for a final mix because they're pulling, but you ought to get Karen Berg to play it for him.
Yeah, I will, yeah.
Although she might not, because she doesn't want it reviewed. Like she was uptight that there were a couple of people that had cassettes, because he played it for some friends of mine downtown, and they made a cassette. And Karen was very uptight that somebody like you would hear it accidentally and might review it on the basis of not, the final mix.
Yeah.
So they might not, but
Well, I rarely review records anyway. I'd much prefer to write about people and.
Yeah, but you see, in that context, you're still considered press, and she just,
Yeah.
he wasn't, neither she nor he were ready for the press yet, you know.
Right.
I think they really wanted the final mix. But it might, the album should be out momentarily, and you really ought to get it.
I get so pissed off at people wanting me to get a nightclub act together because everybody has a nightclub act. And he's always giving me lectures about, hey, you got to get your nightclub act together. As if he's in a position to tell somebody else about their nightclub act, especially when I'm not even, trying to be a singer.
And what are you trying to be?
Oh, well, I basically want to be a writer, but we've been doing these TV shows, and I design jewelry and I model, just to survive. But
What's happening with Patti Smith?
I don't want to talk about Patti Smith in the same breath as myself.
But just when you sit, get your act together.
Well, Steve was going to do a lot for Patty, wasn't he?
He was going to manage. He was going to manage all of his friends. He was going to manage me when Andy asked me to do L'Amour and all those films.
Oh yeah, except that I'm so into flat-chested women, it never occurs to me.
Yeah, me too. I'd love one, thank you. I don't really like big breasts.
Oh, I've been.
I love them.
Like,
To me, it's so much whipped cream, All those.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen any of my ex-alt ladies, but aside from, well, I'm having fairly large tits, almost my ex-alt ladies were really flat chested. I just bought a corkscrew, what did I do?
Well, I don't think any woman is really flat-chested. I mean, if you're, as long as you're not a transvestite.
I don't know, I really don't like to show nude photos of the people I've been in love with.
Anton's just jealous of your photo collection there.
It's a good collection.
That's an art collection in itself.
Yeah, it is actually. Mostly that was Seal actually.
While we're here, Mickey, do you have any good pornography lying around?
I don't have any good. I have a lot of pornography, but very little that's very good.
Well, dirty, something really dirty.
Yeah, no, nothing that I would really want to show anybody else.
Reddy's supposed to have a fabulous porno collection.
Oh, really? Yeah. I'm really just getting into pornography.
He's also supposed to have a very big penis, Reddy.
Really? You don't use it once
That's
That's a good picture.
Isn't that a good picture? I was taken at the party we had for Larry Zox after his Whitney opening.
Poons is such a funny cat.
Yeah.
He really is.
I love the night that Bobby Neuwirth had Larry Poons. He says, find Larry Poons, let's get Larry Poons up here. We'll really show you how to waste your time. So somebody got Larry Poons out from the bar, and he got a busboy and waitress and somebody else to be the Poonettes. And they sang a song.
Poontangs.
The Poontang.
Right.
Laurel was telling me about when he was teaching up at, where was he teaching? Where she went to school?
Listen, you should watch what you're listening to with Laurel, because Laurel has very distorted pictures of things.
Oh, I'm sure. No, I would never,
You have to, like you've quoted Laurel so many times, and so many of the things you've said about Laurel have been wrong.
I've never quoted Laurel. Have I ever quoted Laurel, ever?
6 times today you've used Laurel as a quote.
Oh, no.
And 5 of those 6 times what Laurel said was not right.
I have not, never
Oh, I quoted her
quoted
once
Laurel
as
in
saying that
print.
the artist Madonna's.
Laurel seemed, see, I don't know those guys. I don't know Poons and those guys. So.
Yeah, but you see, Laurel only knows them as a Bennington groupie.
Yeah.
And the Bennington groupies are not like the best source for people like that.
Right,
Like
right. Oh, no, I would never quote her in print anyway.
Well, he quotes her because she lives with Anton. We see a lot of her.
Yeah, we just...
Certainly does make a few statements.
Oh, she makes some interesting statements. It's just
Well, the one about you being sort of like a high school principal wasn't... I didn't think it was a bad statement at all. I thought it was rather interesting because a lot of people do think of you as...
Right, but don't you understand that you may see it that she may see it that way, but you as a writer have to look at it in a whole different way.
Oh, I would never. No, I wouldn't. That's not something.
That's a child's eye view of what where I'm at.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's Laurel's eye view. I just thought it was a rather amusing, way of thinking of it.
Did I get too involved in looking at pictures? I must have not looked at myself.
Who's that guy?
Laurel she speaks very well of you, anyway.
I love Laurel. I'm not playing this
She
down.
speaks very highly of you.
She has never said a bad...
But that doesn't mean, all I'm saying is that you have to watch her perceptions, that they're not all that accurate, that's all. I'm not putting them down, I'm just saying, like, be careful, because, like, there are certain people who have really, whose insights I really, really respect. I mean,
Right.
first is I respect your insights, as you're aware, right?
Yeah.
you know, like Laurel's insights, I would just be very careful about because I don't know that
Yeah.
they're really all that accurate.
I've learned that through
I
experience.
would respect Steve's insights, Steve Paul's insights. In certain areas, Sam Hood's insights in certain areas are unbelievably, you know, accurate. You know, there are just like a whole bunch of people I could refer you to that I think, you know, like are worth listening.
Oh, sure. No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't use Laurel as Tinkerbelle said. It's because
She's an intelligent girl,
Oh,
but
she's very bright.
she's an intelligent girl. But I've learned from experience that her insights are so distorted and biased.
Exactly, because of her own fuck-ups.
Yeah, I mean, she's really brought me down a few
I was just going to
times.
say, she's also, obviously, she's so depressed. You know?
Yeah, because she tries to destroy other people as a rebellion against her own self-destructive streak.
Well, God only knows
Or
what
else
she
she's
said,
trying to bring other people
what
down
she
with
said
her.
about me because I do know, I do see her potential.
Well, you know what
for,
she said about you?
What? What did she say about me?
Oh, I don't know if we should say it on the air.
Well,
Turn
turn
the
it-
camera.
I don't
turn it-
care. I'm
turn
not
the
sensitive.
I can't tell you because it'll really make you impotent.
Really?
Oh, now you gotta say it. I mean, you've said it, you might as well say it. Should I get the cocaine out and then say it?
Yes, get the cocaine out. I promise you I'll say it. But you know what she did to me, Mickey? She said, because I did an interview with Salvador Dali, and I'm very, very, I'm very open to constructive criticism. And she said, you know, that interview really sucked. It was really bad. And I believed her, and I wanted to learn from my mistakes. As it turned out, the interview was so incredible. She said that Ed couldn't get it up.
I was drunk.
Oh, man.
She didn't turn me on that much.
I was just gonna say that
But Victoria-
the real fucking hang-up is exactly that I can't, you know, like I don't know what to do when I get drunk.
You don't have any place to hang out.
No, which is one reason that I usually like to live with somebody. And like now when I'm not living with somebody, I go through all sorts of very weird changes. Very weird.
I know, you find it hard to live alone.
I mean, the other night, for instance, after that party Saturday night, everybody else, it was over by 12:30. Everybody was stoned out of their mind. We'd all had a real ball, and they all went over to Max's, and I couldn't go over to Max's. I wound up here with nobody, you know, and it was really...
Yeah, that is terrible.
Oh, it's a real, you know...
Anton?
Nothing.
Well, that's why Steve used to have...
I've begun to socialize at all. I think the other stuff will work. I don't know if that one will. It's only in the last year that I've really begun to socialize at all with having people in my house. Because I always felt like that it was taking away from my business, and also I was always just so super shy about, you know, like basically I'm an extremely shy person. You know, so that it was just like very hard for me to have people. In the last year, maybe the last year and a half, as I began to grow away from my initial close friends and moved out to other friends, I began also to begin to socialize more. And I have, you know, like a year ago, I wouldn't have asked you to come over here.
Yeah.
Period. You know, like there's no way that I could have gotten you over here. Never mind taking cocaine out in front of you. I mean, you know, now, you know,
Now that you've been
I'm
turned
getting-
on to coke.
Well, now I'm growing. Well, I'm turned on the coke, but also I'm growing up. You know.
But it's funny, like the guys like, what's that guy that was with Neil today with the dog?
David Budd.
David Blood. My brain just must be eaten away by alcohol. I can't remember people's names, let alone his dog's name.
Free sex and all this shit, and the fact of the matter is, like it's really very hard for me to call somebody that I don't really like.
Yeah.
I tried it, like, right after I split up again this time. I tried a couple of one-night stands, and I just couldn't make it. And I just can't do it. I better actually come home and jerk off. It's what it really wants to. Max's formula had to do entirely with Mickey, right? I mean, it was my charisma.
Right.
If you think of Max's as Max's rock and roll, you now have something you can package and sell, and might not have to do with me. And since at this point all I really want to do is go away and not be there anymore, you know,
Right, you'd like to just sort
I'd
of
like to think of it
shift
that
the whole
way.
emphasis.
Yeah.
Well, I think the upstairs, Dave took me and showed me it yesterday. I hadn't seen it completed. I think that's a great thing. The bar.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
That's
it's now that it's beginning to shape up, it's really nice. Did you see it before or after Jeffrey Lou put his piece up?
I saw it the other night.
Oh, well, Jeffrey put up a piece last night. You know,
Yeah, no, I saw it a couple of nights ago.
Oh,
But that's
the lighting is up, you know. and
But
stuff.
promoting it as a rock and roll place isn't.
I'm not promoting it as a rock and roll place, point blank. I'm simplifying it, okay? Like I say, there are nights when my artists are there and when they're friends. But if you want to package a concept and sell it to people, like so you can open it in other cities or you can make it a merch. What I want to do now is make it something that I can make money out of.
Yeah.
I've been there too long. I really have to go away, it's not doing me any good anymore. I'm getting more good out of sitting around my kitchen table with my friends than I am at Max's, and why should I be there?
To earn a living.
Yeah, well, the whole point of my giving up law was so that I could earn a living doing something that I enjoyed doing. And I enjoy Max's, but I don't enjoy being there.
So that probably has a lot to do with you being able to run it so well, the fact that you went to law school.
Oh yeah, plus I was a Jew.
You know, Danny Fields.
Hello? Hi. How you doing?
Danny Fields graduated from Harvard, you know.
This is ours. And he made all his money by speculating in money, like when the franc was going down, he was buying, $1. He was just like trading money. And when gold was going up, he was buying gold. And these people, these money people have made millions and millions and millions of dollars speculating on money. And the rumor that I've heard is that that's what Tony does, and he speculates in money markets and things like that. That's what's real.
But a man with that ability as a business head, why would he hire such dipshit workers?
Well, because you have fun too. Why did Michael Jeffries do what he did?
Well, Hendricks is making a fortune.
Lee Charles is not my idea of fun, but...
I know it in Albert Cherry. They not exactly our idea of a good time. No, Kathy Doherty's somebody else. Albert Cherry's that black girl with the yellow hair that's always a mess.
No, I don't find her very interesting. But I think Doherty's very interesting.
Kathy Doherty, yeah.
Kathy Doherty's interesting. I think Tony Gracia has some interesting things to say. Good child is on the
No, I think
It is very weird, last Saturday night when everybody split went to Max's and I couldn't go.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the line from Janet's, right? I sang a song of love for 25,000 people and then went home to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or any Joni Mitchell song, it's the same truth.
Right.
That's why I'm so into them, I guess.
But I guess it wouldn't be possible for you to go there without being hassled. I mean, you couldn't just go and sit.
Well, I can't go there stoned. I mean, that's the point. You see, it isn't a matter of being hassled or not hassled. It's that I just can't go there stoned because I have to deal with too much when I'm there.
Right.
Like all my friends can get stoned and go there. I have to get stoned and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And there's nowhere, since I don't hang out, and there's certainly nowhere, where am I going to go?
Must be worth a lot of money if all those...
No, because I sold it to, a couple of years ago when I had tax problems, I sold one of my 2-door rolls and I sold my Stella, which was $2 million pieces. And now, for instance, how much is Tinkerbelle worth on the market today? I don't know. Certainly a lot of things I have aren't worth that much at the moment.
At the moment.
And whether they will or won't be worth in the future, who knows, At this point, my whole perspective of history and so forth, I have no idea.
I heard that the horse place...
Frank Hill decadence. Yeah. Okay, what else is happening? Yeah. Hi. Okay.
You go.
Thanks.
What? Nothing much. No.
Chris's camera.
Well, it's just down here.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's gotten
Tally Brown and Pat Astor are operating on a different level. They're capitalizing on their freakishness. Lillian wasn't a freak. She may have been freaky looking, but her insights and everything else about her were not freaky. I mean, Lillian was there's no way to compare her to Tally Brown, who makes a living.
Well, you can compare in the sense that there are psychological hang-ups that go with a woman being immensely overweight.
Yeah, but the problem with Lillian's sensitivity was that Lillian, see, I can't relate to Tally Brown at all physically. I relate to Tally Brown strictly as the fact that she's a fat actress who's made a living as a fat actress, right? Whereas Lillian, I could relate to very, very much as a female human being who I couldn't quite overcome my physical repulsion to. It's a lot like Karen Berg, you see. who in many ways, you know, like is not quite as bad, but you know, like who is very, very feminine person, but still has a physical repulsiveness, which makes it very hard for her to, you know, function in the field, you know.
Yeah, and it requires a certain amount of courage, actually.
Tremendous
Courage. Because this is the kind of scene where people put a lot of emphasis on that. You know what I mean? When she's dealing with people who are glamorous and that sort of thing. And I've always thought it was that Karen could continue and go ahead. I thought it was quite courageous. And
yeah. I've heard some funny stories about that.
But, you know, I always thought that Lillian had a very bad fight at Max's with some writers.
So, I mean, I was at that Geraldo Rivera thing, the first one, the John Lennon concert, and Lillian got into a freaky thing. I was sitting down, Carla Munga hit me up for those $100 seats, right, because they hadn't sold enough of them. So what happened was I got hit for them, and I bought two of those seats, and I was sitting down there. Lillian was up in the gallery, and she was trying to get down to see Dan Singleton or Don Singleton or somebody like that, and the cop was giving her a hard time. And it was me and like half a dozen people like who knew Lillian went over to try and help. And Lillian was freaked out and would not, like, you know, like, she would not accept any rational way. The cop, like, really wanted, all he wanted was, like, to let her do what she wanted to do because he knew that she was press. But she refused to do it. I mean, she just totally freaked out. And she wouldn't, she made him forcibly eject her. Like, she freaked.
Oh,
it was like a whole side of her I'd never seen before, like a totally incoherent, insane side of her. That, like, you know, like had no rationality because obviously she could have done anything she wanted that night as press. And she was like just doing a freak out scene for no reason.